Hello, podcast listener. You're listening to JJ Meets World. I am the host, JJ, and this is the Meets World. Our guest today is Carrie Knutson. We talked to Carrie about photography, family, and another thing that's got an F, whether it's an F or a PH. Plus, Tucker and I dive into a celebrity status story of mine that's maybe one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life. But first, a word from our sponsor. This episode of JJ Meets World is brought to you by Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. Natalie has a proven track record to get your home sold faster and for more money. She is consistently focused on her clients' needs and wants throughout the entire process and make sure that they are well taken care of. If you're looking to buy or sell, reach out to Natalie today. On average, Natalie sells a home every 3.74 days. That's at least 2 a week. And last year, Natalie earned her clients on average over $4,000 above list price on their homes. And you don't have to take our word for it. Here's some of the great reviews Natalie has received. I was overwhelmingly impressed with Natalie and all the Hatch team. She was very responsive and responded to all of the emails within an hour. She gave great advice and encouragement from the listing and pictures, the offer, and all the closing details. The marketing team knew exactly how to promote my property, and I was pleased by how soon and easily my property received an offer. I was actually dreading selling my condo, and Natalie did such an awesome job that I felt like I really didn't need to do anything. The thing I most appreciated was that she really listened to what I wanted to do and respected my decisions. I would definitely recommend Natalie and all the Hatch Realty team. They made this process so wonderful. That was from Diane. So listen, if you're in the mood to buy or sell a home, give Natalie a call right now. You can reach her at 701-388-9338. Natalie, Natalie, at hatchrealtyfm.com, or you can go to livefargomorehead.com. That's livefargomorehead.com and find out some information. Huge thanks to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty for sponsoring JJ Meets World.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
I've never been fingerprinted by the police, but I do at one point, I got to experience fingerprinting because when I was a little kid, we had a thing where we would roll ink on our hands and then we'd make our fingerprints. Right. So I always wonder what kind of information the cops have on me at this point.
I've been fingerprinted a couple of times by the cops.
Have you?
But none for criminal reasons. When I had my previous job in the poker show, there were you go to different states and there are different laws about who can work in casinos.
Sure. So you had to work with Nevada Gaming.
Exactly. So there were a few times, I don't know why we had to do it multiple times, but a few times that I had to go get fingerprinted and then get it sent in. And it was a painless process. End of story.
That's it?
That's it.
My one time where I was fingerprinted by an actual police officer, but it wasn't for record keeping, is someone broke into our garage. They actually chopped out the window that's on the side of our garage, stole my dad's car. They took the garage door opener and they pulled the little pulley so you could pull it up by hand, drove his car out, gone. Wow. And so nobody noticed that they had gone in through this window until the cops arrived and they were trying to figure out how he got in. And all of a sudden my mom was like, well, the window's gone, because since he chopped out just the frame, it didn't look like there was a big difference, right?
Right.
So the guy had chopped out the window and then left the window on the side of the garage on the outside. And so they fingerprinted the whole thing and they said, no, we don't have any prints. And they're showing me how they put the dust on it. And they're like, would you like to do your fingerprint? And I was like, yeah. So I put my thumb on the glass. They dusted and they said, oh, so there it is. And then they took packing tape.
Yeah.
And they pressed packing tape against it. And then they turned the packing tape around onto itself. So it formed its own little seal. Mm-hmm. And I still have that to this day. It sits in, I've got like a box of memories and old stuff that I have. And
What a great time when that guy stole Dad's car.
it was. Oh, and then when they found it, it was at the other end of the state. And so we had to go out there as a family to pick up the car. And I remember my dad had to identify everything in the car that was his. When they brought it in, they have a sheet of every item that was cataloged. And there were 4 porno mags in there that were not my dad's, but he leaned over and he goes, should I claim these? Should I claim these? And there was also a roll of toilet paper that he did not claim, but it was his roll of toilet paper because my dad would commute in and back and forth from the lakes all the time. And if you're driving early morning, there's not a lot of places to pull over if all of a sudden nature calls and you got to pew. So just in case.
I thought you were going to say just to like blow his nose or something. But
Nope. Then he would bring tissues with.
What is the tie-in with this story to today's guest?
So what I was going to say was I ended up talking to that cop years later and he remembered me.
Okay.
Like from going out and doing this thing.
You leave an impression.
I must have. But I recognized him immediately as well. And it was one of the many times where I'll see someone 10 years after meeting them and immediately fall into like, do you remember doing this? They're like, yeah, you were going to take it. You showed it to your class like in 4th grade. And then you wrote me that nice thank you note. I'm like, yeah, that was me. And our guest today, Carrie Knutson, is that same type of person who knows everybody. In fact, while we were wrapping up Carrie's episode and our next guest walked in, she immediately was like, yeah, I know you from this. And I took pictures of you from this. And so I find that to be very intriguing to meet my match.
I would like to see you, Carrie Knutson, Carrie Winterstein, and John Marks do a network off and be like, who can get recognized by the most people when they come in this door? Because I think that would be entertaining to see.
Or put us on a park bench and see, so be like, do you know that? Yeah, be like, that's Harold Hamm.
Yesterday I was in downtown having dinner with my girlfriend and her family, and as we're walking down Broadway, I felt like the mayor of downtown for a moment because it was so nice out. Everyone is out for walks, and I ended up running into 5 or 6 different people I knew.
Was your girlfriend mad about it?
No.
My wife will get very mad about it.
Yeah, my girlfriend doesn't have hangups like your wife has.
The height of my local fame when I was in a series of bank commercials that were getting played all the time. I would get stopped I would go to the grocery store and get stopped by 5 people. And I loved it. But Jill was getting to the point where she was angry. She's like, why do I even go out with you? There's no point because you never have any time for us.
All right.
And I mean, she's got a slight point because my attention was always divided by these people. And I never wanted to be the celebrity that was a total jerk.
That's why we're doing this podcast, so you never become a celebrity.
I told you about what happened to me at the China buffet, right? With my local celebrity.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard the story, and I'll make it quick, went out to lunch with Jill at a local Chinese buffet. And a guy kept looking at me while I was putting food on my plate. And I was like, oh, come on, guy. I'm just a regular dude. I just want to have lunch
pants
too.
on one leg at a time like you.
Yep. And so he keeps looking at me and keeps looking at me. And I give him a smile. And then he kind of like something flashes in his eyes. And I'm like, oh, God, this guy's going to come over and he's going to want to talk to me. He's going to be like, you're that guy from that commercial. Wow. And so he comes over and I've already worked up how I'm going to like get out of this conversation as fast as possible. And he goes, hey, excuse me. And I was like, yep, I'm in that commercial. And he goes, what? And I go, okay, what? And he goes, those must be new pants because the sticker with the size is still on it. And sure enough, I looked down at my jeans and I still had the size sticker on it. And so I immediately deflate and I go and I sit down and I tell Jill, I was like, for 4 minutes, I've been working up this whole thing of like, come on, man, just let me have my lunch. And she goes, good. It's good to be humbled sometimes. It's good to be humbled.
She's just jealous because no one knows who she is.
Who Jill is?
Yeah.
Oh, but she's starting to become JJ's wife. So now people are really starting to identify her as being, I guess, owned by me
when
in
she
some
starts
way.
hearing about all the stories about her you talk about on this podcast. That's when she's gonna start
luckily
tuning
she
in.
doesn't listen to it, so I can say whatever I want. Like maybe if you like the squishier pillows, you should buy more than one because I bought that one and that's for me because that's how I'm comfortable. Our guest today is Carrie Knutson.
JJ Meets World.
The year I turned 21, and you did a really awesome thing.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to take you to Vegas.
Yeah.
And so you're like, hey, Scott Edward Haugen, do you want to come with us to Vegas? And he's like, I absolutely want to come with you to Vegas. And then we go to the airport and we run into Eric Zeiss and his cousin and a stripper who end up joining us on our trip to Vegas.
And spend the night in our hotel room.
Exactly. And then we get to Vegas and then we run into another group with my good friend Carrie Snyder in it, who was there on a class trip. Right?
I was there doing some stories for MSUM in my reporting classes. And so
was it like what buffet is the best? What was the premise of the stories?
So it evolved from us pitching an idea because Allegiant Air had just started doing the Vegas trips. And so we pitched to our advisor that they should send us on Allegiant to Vegas and we could just write about the experience. But then she was like, no, that's not good enough. Why don't you stay down there and come up with stories while you're down there and bring it back for then the online magazine that we worked for called Horizon Lines. And so we did stories. Mine was on Old Vegas and
like Fremont Street.
So we actually stayed in Binion's on Fremont.
Yes.
And then the other reporter who came along, she was doing on people who had met in Vegas.
Oh,
yeah. And so just kind of like roaming around, like talking to people and like relationships, things like that. But yeah, it was just kind of funny because I'm on the plane and the plane wasn't even full. I remember that because like I could stretch out, that was my first time flying too.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that we could gamble on the flight there. Once we got over Nevada airspace, they walked up and down the aisle with a trash bag and said, put $1 in here.
Yeah.
Or no, put $1 and then they drew a seat number. Like from another thing.
No, you put your seat number on the dollar bill because that's how they knew it was your dollar bill.
Got it. Okay. And then
14B.
Yeah, right. And so just got to gamble a moment you get over Nevada airspace. But then our friend Scott Edward Haugen decides to leave our group and start tailing Carrie's group because he finds out he's sweet on on one of the members of the group.
Yeah, Anna.
Yeah. And so then we didn't see him for most of the time after that. Now we have no idea where he is.
Right. That was probably the most Vegas experience I've ever had because it included those random people that we saw at the airport getting robbed. They were robbed
Not at the airport, but they got robbed in Vegas.
Like behind like the Denny's, the Las Vegas Denny's.
Well, why are you behind a Las Vegas Denny's?
I think right. Like that's first and foremost. What are you looking for?
Why are you going to Denny's in Vegas?
Right.
Like,
there's so much food there.
And they stole their luggage. Do you remember that? Because they were walking to their next hotel because I was like, all right, guys, we've had enough. So long. You don't get to stay with us anymore.
Yeah.
And so they were walking to their next hotel and then they get robbed by knife point, if I'm not mistaken.
My gosh.
And they take their luggage and then they found their luggage. Like the police found their luggage in a dumpster, but it was just the bags.
Oh man.
So they had to spend 2 more days in just the clothes that they had. And they came back to the hotel and they had been crying and they were like, could we, stay with you guys where we feel safe? They're like, it's okay, guys. We'll take care of it. And we saw Avenue Q.
So did we.
Yeah. Did you?
Were we at the same showing?
Who knows? Possibly.
Yeah, because that's my
fun.
favorite musical of all time.
It's so good.
It's one of my favorites. I actually sang for musical I'm in this summer. I sang a song from there as my tryout song.
Really?
So, yeah.
So Carrie is on the board of directors of the group putting on Weather the Storm.
Yep.
Oh.
For Cassack players.
Oh,
yep.
Nice.
Yep.
And you did Chaperones as well?
Yep. Last year. Yep. So, yeah.
So Carrie and I go way back, went to high school together back when I knew her as Carrie Snyder, now Carrie Knutson.
You probably knew me as Snyder's sister or Adam's sister because that was basically in high school. I was known as Carrie by like the people who were friends with me.
Right.
And then everyone else knew me as Adam's sister or Snyder's sister. So
Adam was someone you couldn't miss in a crowd because he was at least a foot taller than everyone else.
He's 6'8".
He was taller than Tyler Koenig, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Pretty sure he was.
He was by an inch. So
Right.
Yeah. Monster of a guy.
Right.
What's a high school experience like where you're known as like there's a possessive for somebody else there.
Ask my little sister.
So
Right?
Ask your little sister.
my sister went through the same thing, so I'm curious to know what your experience was like with that.
Actually, I think I'm probably rare in that case because I liked it. Like Adam and I are only 10 and a half months apart, and he's older, and basically I wanted to do everything he did growing up. You know, we were super close just the whole time, and when I got to high school, I knew it annoyed the hell out of him. And so I embraced it. You know, I was like, yep, I'm Adam's sister, you know. And it's kind of funny, though, because a lot of people who knew Adam, you know, he's a big grizzly looking guy, you know, and could grow a beard when he was like 14,
Right.
you know.
Right. He looked like he could have been a bouncer at a bar.
Basically, and he was at
Like
one
a
point.
junior?
Yep.
Right.
Basically.
Absolutely. But he was also someone who had this sort of acerbic sarcasm
Yes.
about him, and his whole circle of friends, which my circle of friends intersected with.
Yep.
They were all like that too.
Yeah.
And so, Adam was awesome.
Yeah. And so he basically got annoyed by it, but people would know they knew that he had a sister. So most people, when they finally met me, couldn't believe who I was, because I was back then like 130 pounds, you know, just small little shy thing. And they'd look at me and they're like, we did not expect you. Like they expected like a female version of Adam,
Right.
you know? And I'm like,
another Yeti.
yes,
basically.
yes. They're like, no way, you guys are brother and sister. I'm like, yep. You know, he's a foot taller, and
So do you have the same parents?
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're 10 and a half months apart.
We are Irish twins.
Could your
Whoa.
Could,
Yeah.
could
Yeah, I'm just doing the math on
Yeah,
that right,
right.
now.
could your parents were they like okay 45 days 45 days 45 days.
I don't really know how that happened. I don't like to think about it. That's like what everyone says to me is, oh, your parents were busy. I'm like, no, let's just not even go there.
That's a crazy year, though, that they had two babies in 1 year.
Yeah, my mom talks about, you know, having a you know, not even a toddler, a baby, and then a newborn at the same time, you know, and like, I don't know how you do it, but my mom does daycare now. And so I totally am like, oh, you were prepped from that, from us. So
My little sister's about to pop. She's pregnant and she's due in June, but I have a feeling this baby's coming sooner because this baby's big.
Baby's like a
really?
Memorial Day baby.
Yeah. This baby's like, let me out. I need to go to work.
So you guys were just 1 grade apart then?
yep, 1 grade apart.
Oh, that's got to be interesting. So
yeah.
I say that my sister and I are 2 years apart. My
Yeah.
sister says we are 1 year and 11 months apart.
Okay.
And I stayed in my little womb space, my little womb apartment for an
Yeah.
extra month.
Oh,
So my mom was pregnant for 10 months, and then they were finally like C-section. We're getting that kid out of there.
right.
And then my sister, same thing. So I was supposed to be born in September. My sister's supposed to be born in August. She was born September. I was born October.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So like there was definitely some weird, you know, like codependency already before
I was
birth.
going to say, like, that womb must have been like grade A luxury.
It was
Like,
probably pretty good.
Yes.
Absolute.
My mom loved fruit, like more than anything. Like, so I'm imagining it was probably pretty like delicious in there. It was
Right.
always
It's
like,
very
what's
sweet.
that? Was that pineapple? Whoa. So now you're Carrie Knutson.
Yes, Carrie Knutson.
Did you think for a minute, like, I don't know if I want to be
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I joked with my husband and he always got super annoyed with it. I said, I feel like it's some Valley Girl thing, like weather girl, like, and here's Carrie Knutson with the weather, you know, just.
It is very, it's
Yeah.
very like Midwest broadcast.
Right. So,
It's a
but
last name that puts you in a geographic location
it
for
totally
sure.
does.
Oh, your name's
Yeah.
Knutson. Oh, you
Yep,
live in
you've
North
gotta be
Dakota
in
or
this
Minnesota.
area. Larson, Nelson, Knutson, yeah. But and Snyder, actually, Snyder was originally Schneider, and then they Americanized our name to Snyder, which I wish they would have kept it Schneider because everyone pronounced it that way, anyways.
I went to school with a Schneider, Carolyn Schneider.
Yeah, and fun fact about that. I don't even know if I should talk about this,
Please
but this
do.
is hilarious. So junior high at Ben Franklin Middle School, I think I was in 9th grade at the time, and we had finals to take. And all of a sudden, I don't know what teacher or what class I was in, they're like, you can't take your final. And I'm like, what? And I'm like stressed out, Carrie. Like, finals and tests and everything were just awful for me. And they're like, yeah, you have overdue library books. Until you make that right, you can't take your finals.
Oh,
and I was
see.
like, I've never checked out a library book in my life.
It's like Parks and Rec. You think I'm going to go into a library?
Right. At least, I did back at Longfellow Elementary, when that was like a thing. Junior high, I was like, shh, I'm not going to read for recreation. Like, I got too much to do, And so I went to the library and they're like, yeah, you do. You have a bunch of overdue library books, Carolyn Schneider. And I go, what part of Carrie Snyder do you not understand? I'm like, number one, she's a grade below me, or one grade or two.
She was my grade, so it would have been a grade
one
below.
grade below me, and I'm like, number two, it's not even the same name at all.
Not even close. Not even close.
And then I was just like the rest of the week just cursing Carolyn Schneider, and I didn't even know her.
Did you see what books? Do you remember any of the books that you had out?
To tell you
You
the
like
truth.
bomb making or something?
Oh my gosh!
So I was
Not
thinking,
Carolyn. Trust me, not Carolyn.
I was thinking like origami.
I could see Carolyn getting that for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely. In high school, when I took Ms. Malm's English class,
Oh, yep.
Mariana Mom, what?
Mariana Malm with the win. There was like every Friday was just reading day. And so if you brought a book, you had to bring a book to read to get extra credit. Otherwise, you'd get dinged for it. And both I and Ree were late to class, Ree Seminole.
Oh, Ree.
And who's one of my best friends in the world. And Ree doesn't mind being late to class, but I did because I was also stressed out. And I said, Ree, I really need a favor. Can you please run to the library and just get me a book? I need a book. Something to read, please. I don't want to be late. He goes, okay. So he runs off and I run to class and I'm sitting there and she's going down the list of everyone. You have to say the name of the book you're reading and like the author. And it's almost to my part. And then Ree comes running in with a smile on his face and hands me a book. And it was about like the prettiest unicorn. And that was just classic Ree. So
You
I read
can just think like I was into unicorns before it was cool.
I read The Prettiest Unicorn
Yeah.
then that day. It was a good book.
Has it influenced you the rest of your life?
It guided all my decision making ever since then,
I remember
including making this podcast.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Is that why you pushed for this to be called the PU?
Yeah. It's like, what would the Prettiest Unicorn want me to do? The Prettiest Unicorn would definitely want me to make this episode with
Right.
JJ.
Now, my question is, so this pretty unicorn lived amongst other unicorns, but thought it was the better of them?
I'm
was
trying
this-
to remember the arc of the story.
Was this like an allegory for the Third Reich, or?
I don't remember it being super deep. I'm surprised it was in a high school library, actually, to tell you the truth. I remember thinking, like, where did he get this from? But it was from our library, and I
Are you
had
sure
to
he
return
didn't run to Ben Franklin Middle School?
I'm positive he did not run to Ben Franklin Middle School.
Was the last person who checked it out like Dickie Thompson? So I was with high school kids last night.
Oh,
Because I
okay.
coach at North High now.
Oh, do
I like
you?
to say coach because then they're like, oh, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
But really, I just advise their improv
Your
team.
babysitter.
Oh, so you're doing
Yeah.
improv and that type of stuff still. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm still the advisor and coach because I have a
Okay.
whistle.
You actually bring a whistle to an improv?
Yeah, because that's how we start.
awesome.
That's how we start
I
end
suppose
scenes.
I was in improv for like a split second at
Oh,
North
yeah,
too.
that's right. That's
Julia's
Yeah.
seizures.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they would never have that name ever again.
No. No.
Well, Natalie Deutsch wanted to call it Poke Your Hauntus.
Poke my Hontus.
My Hauntus?
Yeah, because she pushed for that at a Trollwood event as well. She was
Yeah.
like, "This is a great name," and that lost out to, I believe, Grandpa's Libido for an improv team at Trollwood. So anyway, so talking to these high school kids, and they're telling me about all these things that they're doing and how they're like, oh, this class is so stupid. All we have to do is look at these maps and then put pins in where like the countries are. And I said, listen, if I could go back knowing what I know now, I would have really loved the fact that I had a class that taught me geography.
Right.
And that you had someone there who allowed you to take a look at these, maps and then gave you an exercise to help you remember where things are. Tucker talking about like every Friday we had silent reading time.
Right.
Do you know what I would give to be able to have time set aside each week just so that I was like, this is where JJ reads.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
nothing else to worry about.
Can't you do that still?
I don't have time.
Just tell Jill to go sit outside.
Nope, doesn't matter.
Just be like, just put on a movie or something.
Also, side note, one of the worst things that has ever happened to me yesterday. Thank goodness I was really booked up all day. I had a half an hour where I was going home to eat dinner, and I found out that the internet went out at my house. And so I called and put an order in for
How did you
my
survive?
provider. So here's the thing. How did I survive? Because my thermostat is controlled through that now.
Right.
Not just like my streaming services, but my television also involves this thing.
Yep.
So I don't download any content. I don't have anything on my iPad. So I'm using my cell phone to watch Muppet Treasure Island.
You're like, yeah, how
Oh,
did
the
I survive?
Muppets.
The thermostat didn't work and I couldn't turn the TV on.
But like, I also have like a home security system. So because I knew I was going to be gone a lot during the day. So I wanted to make sure no one was robbing my house. Couldn't check in on that and find out if my dogs were all right or
Right.
what was going on.
Right.
This morning, I had problems even yet this morning with things because I'm everything about my life is connected. Right.
JJ's had a rough morning.
I have. I'm also going to take this moment, Carrie. I know this is the episode where we're focusing on you, but this is part of the conversation today. In Fargo, Moorhead right now, it's construction season.
Oh, God.
And we've got a lot of road projects going on. And I feel that they have chosen poorly when it comes to the projects that they're doing because downtown Fargo, there are parallel train tracks that can cut you off from the north or the south.
Right.
Like a great general was putting these together at one point and being like, we're going to choke out downtown Fargo with train activity. And to get past them, unless you wait, there are only 2 underpasses, right?
Yeah.
3 if you count 10th Street, but then that just funnels you right through. I had to go I was in downtown Fargo and I had to go back 22 blocks
Oh my gosh.
to hit an underpass and then come around. So I had to come around. Now, for some people in Chicago who say like, it takes me an hour and a half to get to work every day. And
Right.
it's
Yeah, but you're in Chicago.
Right.
You're in Chicago. There's things to look at in their city and there's da 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 da. But in Fargo, you're sitting there waiting for a train and it starts to slow down. And then when it stops, that's what I had this morning was that frustration where I watched the train stop and then it started going in the opposite
Yep,
direction.
backwards. They're changing tracks. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
and then so I come in here and I'm talking about how mad I am at trains and Carrie's like, well, my dad was a train switch operator.
Yeah, well,
So
he wasn't a train switch operator. He worked on the signals.
okay, so what does
Yeah.
that mean?
So he's a signal maintainer. So basically the tracks, if somebody was out driving in a blizzard when they weren't supposed to be and they crash into the gates and stuff, he'd have to go out and like replace the gates, like all of the lights, like if the light was burnt out, he'd have to make sure that's going, make sure that the gates are going down at the right time of where the train hits. And
Okay, so then you're a good person to ask this question.
yeah.
Is there a ghost train that goes through occasionally? Because sometimes the signals go down.
Yep.
And then no train goes by and then they go back up.
I am not supposed to talk about that.
Is it?
So that's privileged knowledge.
Because I
so-
love that scene in Ghostbusters 2 where they encounter the ghost train.
Right.
I love that level in Final Fantasy VI.
There's a ghost train?
Oh yeah, it's
I
awesome.
love ghost trains.
It's a really good ghost train.
No, that's when if they malfunction or something, and then so my dad was on call all the time. So if like signal went like that, or they get a call, dispatch would beep them back in the era of beepers and then cell phones, and I'd have to go out and fix it.
How far out would he go? Like, what was his territory?
So he was from Dilworth, all the way to. I don't think it was till Castleton, but it was like out to West Fargo. So
Oh, okay.
So maybe 30 miles.
is that how much it would be about? Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. So every signal you would think, and it was the north signals here was his track.
Oh, so he didn't even cover both tracks.
Yep.
He was on the Amtrak, the commuter line,
Yeah.
the one that uses the commuter.
Yeah.
Not like the BNSF. Like,
Well, BNSF.
Okay.
Yeah, but Amtrak uses
BNSF
it.
owns like
Yeah.
all the train stuff.
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
You
yeah,
ever do any train travel?
I did once, and I actually did it as part of when I turned 29. I started a 29 for 29 list of where I was doing 29 things I had never experienced before. And one of them was I wanted to go travel by train. And so my best friend lives in Chicago, and she was getting married. So I thought, okay, I'll take the train out there.
What time of year?
Oh, this was in March. And this was back, let's see here, 29. I don't even know how many years ago that I'm 35.
You're 35 and 34.
So 6 years ago, 2013.
There you go. Thank you.
I only know that because I'm also 35, so I can do that math.
I was just like, don't put me on the spot. I'm a creative, not a math person. So, but so when I booked the train and everything, that was back when the Bakken was booming and everything in Western North Dakota, and we had done stories upon that stuff and about how the trains would get backed up, right? So I think I had to be there at like 3:30 in the morning. And I don't think I took off from here until close to noon because it just kept getting pushed back. And so I'm like literally sitting over here in the Amtrak station, sleeping on chairs in there. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm like some, transient, like,
Do I really want to go in this train?
I know. But I rode it by myself and it was actually fun, like to be able to go to like, oh my gosh, it was so cool. So when you go to the, dining carts, if you're traveling alone on a train, they sit you with someone.
Yeah. Even if you have only like two people with you,
Yep.
they'll ask, would you mind sitting with two other people? And
Yep.
so I last time I traveled by train, I met the guy who Groupon was sending to Europe to start Groupon in
cool.
Europe.
Yeah.
And a guy who had been selling insurance for 60 years and was getting ready to retire. This was like his last sales trip.
They were just sending him to Europe on a train from Fargo?
No, he was moving to Europe.
Okay.
And so he said, I would like a month before that. So he's seeing America before he left. Because he had never left Boston at the time, I think.
Wow.
So he was a very interesting dude. And he was like, well, I'm going to get off when I'm in Fargo. What should I do? And I said, well, you're going to want to go to the Fargo Theater Marquee. That's pretty iconic. But did you sit with someone interesting?
I did actually. Maybe not interesting to a lot of people, but it's super interesting to me. There was this guy, and his name was Rocco. I'll never forget that name, but Rocco. And he's originally from the East Coast, and he was living in California, and he was taking it all the way from California to the East Coast. I think Jersey or something is where he was originally from. And so we got to talking and everything, and then we found out we had something in common, being that he just had a brother who died, and I had just had a brother who died. And so we started talking about like that common, like what it's like to be a sibling, losing like basically your best friend since you came out of the womb, And it was just so, for me, like, it was just like, wow.
It's like you were meant to sit next to that person.
Yes. So I can tell you, on that trip too, you get one stop to be able to get out and like stretch your legs and go to the bathroom. And I think that was around Minneapolis is when we stopped.
Because it's a longer stop in Minneapolis.
Yep, it's a long stop so you can get out. And so I got out and I thought, okay, I'm going to use a bathroom that's not on the train. And when I went into the stall in a woman's bathroom, right? Written on the side of the stall was, I think it was something about like, I believe in you. And then the name Adam. And that was my brother's name. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, there is too much like, holy cow, signs, all this different stuff going on. I mean, out of all the stalls and all the places, whatever, and then I meet this guy, Rocco, and he's talking about his brother. He was killed in a car crash and, just to have that common stuff. And I'm like, holy crap. All right, there's lots of universal signs out here that's...
So the word universal, isn't that interesting when dealing with this? Where,
right.
You think that your story is wholly unique. And
right.
it really, there are a lot of elements that are.
Yes.
But there are a lot of similarities and people have very similar feelings when dealing with something, especially with the loss of a sibling.
Right.
Where this person that you've never met before has had a completely different life trajectory.
Yep.
You still find a lot of common ground with that grief process. And he probably got something amazing out of being able to talk to you about it.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
The trip between Fargo and Chicago is unique. If you actually start at 3:30 in the morning, it's nice because you can go and you can drink until 2 a.m. They kick you out of the bars. Then you stumble over to the scariest train station ever, which is our Amtrak station.
It is. I didn't want to stay there alone. My mom dropped me off, and I was just like, "Please don't leave." And I'm like 29 years old.
Trust me, even at 35, it is a horrific place to be. And they keep remodeling them throughout the country. Why don't we get an upgraded station, please? But then usually, like I've taken it several times, and I fall asleep. And then I wake up at about 9:30. And by that point, you're past Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. And usually, I think you're probably maybe almost to Wisconsin. But then you can go to the observation car, and they're giving, like, the wildlife, the DNR give tours of what you're seeing outside of the observation car. And so when you're going through Wisconsin, it's amazing because they talk about how, like, this land was purchased for this purpose, and the U.S. government pretty much owned the whole state of Wisconsin at one point. And
we should record one of these on a train.
We should.
Oh my gosh!
Just go find someone on the train as the guest and be like, "Hey, do you want to?"
There's like the coolest people on trains.
We could get a rotating cast of characters.
Just the people that show up on this train.
Yeah.
And then the dining car experience is a lot of fun.
It is. It really is.
And I'm 6'3", and I'm a bigger guy. I need space. Air travel sucks.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like, it is the pits for someone of my stature, unless I get bumped up to first class, and that's only happened once organically. But on a train, the seats are huge.
I gotta tell you, I was stretched out. I was
Right?
sleeping. My legs were just completely. My knees weren't in the seat. Like on air travel.
There are plugins now.
Yes.
There's Wi-Fi.
Yep.
I mean, they make train travel great. And so to drive from Chicago to Minneapolis takes roughly 11 hours. If you're like, I'm going to go. And I think you get on the train in Fargo at like 3:30 and you end up there like around 4 p.m. if everything goes right. So really, it's almost the exact same amount of time as it takes to drive.
Or driven.
But like flying, by the time you get to the airport and get checked in, you're an hour and a half before.
Yep.
And you're sitting there, and then you're sweating, and you get on the plane, you sweat some more because they can never figure out the AC on a plane, even middle of winter, and you're still sweating. And then you get to O'Hare, and then you've got to claim your bag, and then you take a train to the city. It's, again, you're maybe talking like 7 hours, but is it really worth it?
Unless you're flying Delta, and then you have to stop in Minneapolis first.
Oh, God, which is just the worst.
And then how long are you going to have in between? Do you have the 30-minute quick? You got to run to your gate, and then you're sweating
I just
more?
had that because I flew back from D.C. via Delta from D.C. to Minneapolis, and we got delayed leaving D.C. So me and my travel partner, we just made it. They were getting ready to close the door, and we were able to make it to the Fargo
and then
flight.
you're just like, all of a sudden you just sit, and then the sweat just starts to pour out of you because.
And then that Fargo flight, they're like, we're really sorry, no drink service because this is a 40-minute flight. And it's like, well, I'm glad it's a 40-minute flight, but man, I want a Diet Coke right now.
If you fly, I think it's American Airlines or maybe the United one that does the direct service, but it's not really a United or American plane. It's a regional aircraft.
Yep.
So you're flying on like Ted's airline, which just happens to subsidize out. So the thing that bothers me the most is you don't get a gate for that. What they do is they send you to the tail end of O'Hare Airport.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you're in gate 52B. And so you're walking around and you're like 51, 52, 53. It feels like Harry Potter. Like you're looking for platform 9 3/4. And they're like, and you ask them, they're like, you got to go downstairs.
Yeah.
So you find out there's a downstairs at the airport where you go and you sit and you wait like cattle. And then they're like, okay,
Chattel.
everyone come on out. We're gonna get you on this plane now. And they pull you. Oh, it's just the worst. The last time I had a great flight to Chicago, and I love Chicago is my favorite city in the country. And so I go back and forth all the time. I proposed to my wife in Chicago.
Oh.
The last time I had a great flight was I was coming home for Christmas when I was going to college, and I ran into like 9 people I knew who happened to be on the way home from a trip. And so we were all down in this little space, and it felt like I know everybody on this plane. And then one of the guys came up and goes, "Hey, you remember me? Remember me?" And I said, I'm trying really hard. And this guy is probably like 5'6". He's got a bushy mustache and he's got glasses. And I'm trying to figure out where I know this Professor Plum looking dude. And then I was like, "Professor, oh, you're the professor." When I camped out for Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Oh my gosh.
The guy who was kind of organizing the whole thing was this dude who I think he was a professor at NDSU, and he also like was a professional piano tuner. And so we all called him the Professor, and he would like
funny.
on the hour, every hour, he would read a chapter from like Lord of the Rings, like get us all like excited about what was going on.
Yes.
And so I was like, "The Professor, what's up?" And so we talked about
He's a Tolkien priest.
the Hobbit was about to come out or something like that, and he was very excited. I imagine he ended up being disappointed.
When you described him, I actually pictured Dr. Robotnik from the Sonic the Hedgehog video
Very
games.
close. Very, very close. Only think about like if the body continued down and it's not on 2 sticks.
Can we talk about for a moment too the weird world of pop culture we're in right now, where a studio can release a trailer for an upcoming movie and receive enough fan backlash that the director goes on Twitter and says, "We messed up. We're going
Yes.
to completely redesign Sonic the Hedgehog."
I was just talking with my coworker about this yesterday, and it was just like, holy cow.
Have we heard of that happening before?
I don't think I've ever heard like to that. I mean, maybe it would have been like some minor little tweak for like 5 minutes, but like this is the main character.
Right. I feel like we're in
We've
a
heard
new...
of massive reshoots after poor test screenings.
Right.
So
but nothing like the huge masses that hit when the trailer's online.
We're like in a new era of test screening.
Right.
Because there was a big thing when the Aladdin trailer came out and people saw what Will Smith looked like. Although I don't think they're tweaking that too much.
I think that they did.
You think that they did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you would assume that they'd have to because it's just so crazy that we can have an effect on a
Right.
movie that hasn't come out yet,
Right.
and then we'll always have the trailer with the old version and the trailer with the new version, and it's even compare and contrast. And I'm a Sonic guy. Like I was a Sega Genesis kid. And that trailer freaked me out too.
Yeah.
His teeth were weirding me out.
It was weird. Yeah. I watched it. I did not grow up in the Sega era. We were Nintendo, although I think my brother had like every single game
Yeah,
system.
he played
so now
everything. Him and
I have
Zach
every-
Savageau and Will
Yep.
Jury and all those
Yep.
guys. They
Yep.
played absolutely everything.
Yep. And so now,
Luke Johnson.
yes, Luke and Charlie.
Charlie.
Yep.
Charlie, do you want some steaks?
Yes. Oh, Mrs. Johnson is the best. Oh, buddy.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, this is not an impression. This is what she actually sounds like.
Oh, buddy.
Her and his dad.
Yeah.
Charlie.
They have the same voice.
The exact same voice.
Yes. Yeah.
Last time I spent time over at their house years ago. It was like on the 4th of July. And I remember seeing Mr. Johnson with a beer in his hand and a cigarette in his mouth, leaning directly over fireworks and trying to light them.
Oh.
You know what that is? It's confidence.
Oh, very confident man.
You know what I loved? It took maybe 6 hours after the trailer was released where people started uploading redone visuals of like, no, this is what Sonic should look like. And they made the
Right.
eyes bigger. And
They made the eyes one eyeball, which is basically
Right.
what Sonic is, with like a brow that comes down into the middle. I know that it's the first one in what's supposed to be a franchise, but I kind of wanted to see the whole gang. I mean, I wanted
Yeah.
to see Tails
Tails.
and
Yeah.
Knuckles and everyone else that they added in.
I also don't like the idea that he's an alien.
Is that what he is?
Yeah.
Okay. Just like they were going to do
He's
with
like,
Ninja Turtles.
I'm here to save your world. Like, are you an alien? And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, see, I kind of took it as maybe he like tore a hole in like the dimensional fabric because he ran so fast. So he's from like another dimension, is what I thought. But we'll find out, I guess.
Here's the thing. So we do have that power as people now, right? Like it's going to happen because studios, I think, are so gun shy on things like, look at what happened with the Super Mario Brothers movie, right?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a major franchise. And before you know it, even the main actors are like, this movie's going to be such garbage that we're going to get drunk
Yeah.
Right.
every day. We're just going to drink whiskey nonstop and
Yep.
see what we end up with.
They just want that Avengers money. So they want to make sure that the first franchise ground setting one works.
Right.
Because otherwise you've got franchises that either die off or need to be totally reinvented, like Suicide Squad, movies like that.
Here's what I don't understand. We are living in an era where if you're going to make a Sonic the Hedgehog movie now, the people who could be doing that for you are the fans. So like take yourself, right? So let's say you are a filmmaker, right? And you've made a couple indie hits and you find out there's a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Well, you've loved playing Sonic your whole life. You're the appropriate age. Why are they not giving the keys to the kingdom to people like that?
Do we know that they didn't? I don't know who the director is.
Whoever it was got it wrong. Got it so wrong.
Right.
So wrong. Even like the only part of that entire trailer I like is when you see Dr. Robotnik at the end and he's got the big bushy mustache.
In the actual Robotnik look, for sure.
So to me, like, are there going to be a bunch of little robot forest animals?
I will say that anytime James Marsden is in something, he's a breath of fresh air.
I agree.
So luckily, because he's there, at the very least, maybe we'll get a really good James Marsden performance. But even like a lame James Marsden performance is actually pretty good.
Good James Marsden.
Dude knows what he's doing.
I'm so glad that we're in this group together because
there's not a lot of people who are like, yeah, he makes things better. And I'm like, no, he kind of does.
He can play like leading man. He can play like aloof at the same time. His character in that the Disney movie where like they come out of the cartoon. Enchanted.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Is he the Prince Charming? Is that what he is?
He just plays like the most idiotic character, but he's just at the same time very charming, like Prince Charming would be.
So good.
Yeah.
So he's one of those leading men that has really strong comedic chops, right? That doesn't need to be a leading man. Like he can do character work all day, just like Hemsworth. Like is a absolutely leading man quality, but he's also brilliantly funny.
You talking about Chris or Liam?
Chris.
You gotta specify that.
I'm sorry, Chris, Liam.
Not Mr. Miley Cyrus.
Okay.
Liam, I don't know you, man. I mean, I don't know your brother either, but he's Thor, so that really puts him up in my book.
Right.
'Cause I love Thor.
But he does not make the best decisions always, because he did decide to be in the Ghostbusters reboot.
But he's a highlight of that movie.
I thought he was a lot of comedic relief in that movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. He held everything on his shoulders, which is unfortunate
his
because
broad shoulders.
Right.
Because you would think that Paul Feig would, like he was focusing on the women, so he would have written the funniest stuff for the women, but he gets the funniest lines in the entire movie.
Maybe Hemsworth read the script and said, Paul Feig, he must be related to Kevin Feige. I bet that's what it was. He was like, well, Kevin's amazing, so of course I'm going to go along with this.
Just accidentally, like they're right next to each other in his phone.
Have you seen Endgame yet?
I have not.
Do you follow that line of franchise
and what
stuff?
my husband and I are doing right now is we're doing it was out on Facebook, the chronological. So we just went through Iron Man 2.
Excellent.
So
Thor would be next, or Incredible Hulk are you going to do next?
Oh, God, I can't remember who.
Because usually Thor follows Iron Man 2 since you get the teaser in Iron Man 2.
And I got to tell you, I'm really enjoying doing this because I didn't realize, when they're coming out at all different times and different storylines and everything. And I didn't realize that you could actually like watch everything like coming together and characters develop and everything. And especially since they didn't do them chronological, with coming out. And the genius, like how they're able to still have these characters that were so developed in, Iron Man. And then you go back to like Captain Marvel, where they're just like coming together and you're like, wow, like that's so cool.
I think one of at least Feige's talents is that they're really good at building on what they've done before, but also finding new twists and takes. And the times that their movies didn't work was when they didn't do that. So Thor: The Dark World is probably, if we're not including Incredible Hulk, is probably the weakest of the MCU movies. I would argue. And in that movie, it's pretty much just Thor revisited, really no big difference in the character. They don't really build much on what came before and find new ways to take it. But the movies that succeed, when the Russos come in and when Taika Waititi comes in and they build off of previous stuff, that is amazing. And it's going to be a huge payoff for you once you watch Endgame.
Yeah.
Because Endgame does such an amazing job at calling back to all of these films and making them all important. Even Thor: The Dark World becomes incredibly important in Endgame. So you're going to love it.
Did you ever have a time like in high school where you were going to go on like a trip, but you had to like maybe do some fundraising to go on that trip and like sell like wrapping paper or something?
Most of the time it was those candy bars.
Okay.
You know?
So you know how you finally move enough candy bars and your parents buy like a dozen of them and then you go on the trip and it's super fun? That's what Endgame is.
Oh.
Yeah. Endgame is the ultimate reward for all of your hard work of sitting through these other movies.
You will laugh. You will cry. You will cry a lot. I cried a lot. I still cry a lot when I watch it again.
I'm the most emotional person out there. So if you're like, oh yeah, you might cry. It's like, no, I'm guaranteed to cry.
Bring hankies. Bring multiple hankies for sure.
Just
Do
sit
people
there
still
with my
use
Kleenex
hankies?
box.
I mean,
I actually know a couple of people who do.
I would
still
use them for
that.
tears. I wouldn't use them for the snaz.
Yeah, I see people who blow their nose and then like
Yes, and
kind
then
of
they
put it back in their pocket. And I'm always like,
That's disgusting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
I don't get the purpose of that. I mean, my grandpa had one, but like, I feel like that's kind of the time he's born in the 20s.
He didn't really have disposable tissue all the time at that point.
do you have a bandana?
A bandana?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah.
Back from my
Hobo days where you were traveling from train to train.
No more like I
used it
was
just for your
so
bindle?
punk, going to the Warp Tour, put my hair in a bandana.
Warped Tour.
Yeah, right?
Tucker and I were driving back from his grandmother's house in Kentucky, and we were in Wisconsin, and we stopped for gas in Janesville. That's where I stop for gas when I'm in Wisconsin.
In the scants.
And on top of the gas pump, I saw an envelope. And so I grabbed it, and I'm like, I wonder what's in this envelope. 2 tickets to the Warp Tour that was taking place
In
that
Somerset?
day. Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, Tucker, it would be like an hour to backtrack to be able to get there. And I'm like, should we go? I mean, we got free Warp Tour tickets. And we both kind of were like, I don't know.
Right. When
we
was this,
decided not
like,
to.
when you're older?
We were on the way back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So at that point, we just both wanted to have be in our own beds. You
So,
know,
like, are you in your, 30s at this point?
No.
You're, like,
mid-20s.
In fact, yeah.
mid-20s? Okay.
Tops.
But I mean, I was an old man by the time I was 17. So I was like, I'm going to bed. It's 10 o'clock. It's way too late.
I mean,
Damn you kids.
Right.
Shook my fist at them.
Get off my lawn.
I did that.
but then, but the other half of that story, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
Think of those poor sons of bitches.
I know. I would have
who
been
got
devastated.
there and then they didn't have their tickets. And
Yes.
the people who go to Warp Tour don't have a ton of dispensable income. Like
God,
you're
no.
not talking about like business professionals.
I mean, they
No.
spend most of the money on the vans.
Right.
You know, and then after that, it's like, we just got ticket money. That's it.
Right.
Maybe some beer money, but
what
not
a
much.
bummer, huh?
My first Warp Tour, I think I was 16 years old. So,
What was the lineup?
Blink 182 was the headliner.
Nice.
Yep.
Did they sound any good live? Because every time I've ever seen like a recorded performance of them live, it's awful. Like they couldn't recreate the studio sound.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if that was just maybe I had bad luck in finding those.
So I had seen them, I think 6 times I've seen them. And every time, I'm not like a huge Blink fan like I was before. Like I used to be huge and I hate the new sound and new band. And plus I've migrated on to other stuff.
Once What's His Nuts decided he wanted to focus on UFOs instead of anything
it just
else.
got to be,
Yeah.
But when I went, the thing is that there's just so much energy from the concerts. I don't think you really pay attention to the quality.
That makes sense.
Because it's just like this hyped up, amped up, and being in like the pit area, and when you're jumping up and down, and then you realize like I'm not even making any effort to jump up and down. It's just everyone else lifting me up and down, and you're like, this isn't even my sweat. This is everyone around me, and body surfing.
So
all
it's basically
that
the
stuff.
second Matrix movie.
Yes.
It's just that giant rave and underground that Morpheus sets off.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say a couple years ago, I caught myself unironically shaking my fist at some kids and saying, "You damn kids." and I was driving on 10th Street near what's the school? Is that Roosevelt or no? What's the school? It's right on
Roosevelt.
It's
Yeah,
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
I was driving past Roosevelt, and a bunch of kids a block up were playing in the street. Super dangerous,
yes.
right? That's a one way.
Did you get out of your car and lecture them?
No, I was driving and I was having a bad day. I was having kind of a JJ morning. This was another thing in my way. And I went, you damn kids. And I shook my fist up with the back of my fist pointed at them. And then I kind of looked at my fist like, what did I just do?
Right.
I'm 27 at the time. I'm not 77.
Next day, he opened the mail. There's an AARP card
Right.
sitting there.
Getting my benefits already.
I also had a damn kids moment recently, but it wasn't with kids. It was with disrespectful garbage pickers. So for those of you who don't know, during a 1 week in Fargo, we have cleanup week where you can put garbage that doesn't go in a garbage can out on your boulevard and the city will take it away for free. So
Shout out to former guest Sally Jacobson of the Red River Zoo, who regularly takes photos of herself in different poses on different trash heaps.
Oh, that's
Check out her
awesome.
Facebook page for the new photos. Sorry, JJ, go.
She carries a bunch of costume pieces with her. So she's
amazing.
like, oh, the tanning bed. I'll pop on this bikini and lay in the tanning bed. Oh, there's this old bathtub. I've got this bathrobe. So they're really good. Anyway,
funny.
so I put my problem with cleanup week is that it's like it's like a drive-through thrift store because there are great things that people are collecting. So I might put out a couch and an old dehumidifier and 9 other items. And by the time the garbage people come, there's really only 2 left.
Yep.
Because other people have come and they're repurposing these items.
Yep.
What drives me crazy is when people come and they see an electronic device like my dehumidifier and they don't want the dehumidifier, but they just use a knife and cut the cord off.
They want the copper
They
from
want
the
the copper
cord.
from inside the cord.
Yep.
Now, do you know how many cords you need to really amass to get a decent amount of money for
A lot.
right.
A lot.
And at the same time, you are now making this item worthless.
Right. That
So-
somebody else could have maybe taken. And,
Right.
Yep.
And so I take the time to put still works great on stuff. So
Yep.
this dehumidifier we had in our old house, which had a stone basement that was very moist all the time. We don't need it at our new house. So I put it out there and I put it out there the day before so that it's not out there 5 days before so that because I know people cut cords. Put it out there, still works great. And then I put do not cut cord on this little note. I'm cleaning my garage and somebody comes and they're looking at this dehumidifier and he puts it in the back of his truck and I'm like, great, someone's going to use this. And he goes, cuts the cord and then he just throws it onto the lawn. And so something snapped in my brain and I'm like, why would you do that? So I'm storming out of my garage I'm coming at this guy. Like, why would you do that? That was a perfectly good thing that you've just ruined. You just ruined it. And then you threw it? That's my lawn that you just threw it onto. Look at that. See where it pulled up all that sod? What are you doing? What are you doing? And so this guy gets in his car and he's trying to get away really fast while the back end of his truck is still open. So he goes, "Brr," and then all of this
Oh my gosh.
junk falls out of it.
His treasures.
And you know what? And he doesn't stop to get them. So now I'm stuck with 5 propane tanks and all this other stuff that I'm like, well, now I got to put it on my berm. And I have nothing other than just a gut feeling on this. But last year, somebody took some garbage and then left some of their own garbage. One of them being a computer monitor, which the city will not take.
No.
You've got to take that up to hazardous materials where they do an electronics recycling event. So I swear to God, and the cord was cut on that too. So it's not even a worthwhile monitor anymore. It's an old, thick,
Oh, yeah.
I call them fatbacks now because we
Yeah.
got thin ones, but
CRTs.
CRT. Thank you very much.
Cathode ray tube.
So
Nerd.
I have a feeling as the
Yeah,
same guy.
pretty much.
I hope I scared him away so he never comes by again.
signal.
Right.
Not a high resolution, but back in the day. I remember seeing the first one of those that was black and thinking, oh, these come in black? Like, that's so cool.
Right.
I want a black monitor that was like the size of the table that we're
Right.
sitting in front of right now. Someone did that to me one day I came home and there was a bowling ball on my boulevard. I didn't own a bowl. I own a bowling ball. I wasn't getting rid of it. That wasn't the one.
Yeah.
I did not put it out there. And my coworker, Adam Zavalny, who you know from your time at the Forum, who is big on Boulevard Day, said what probably happened was someone found a bowling ball in a bag and they just wanted the bag because you can sell the bag for like $20 on eBay. The bowling ball you can't sell. And so they probably had it with them. And then when they were loading up on mine, they're like, you wouldn't need this bowling ball. Let's just leave it here. And just dumped it out on,
right.
on my surface.
Jerks.
Right.
But they still got rid of it. So
we did, when I worked at the Forum, Tammy Swift and I did a story on people who go around during cleanup week and basically look for their treasures and everything. And that was just, we never did that growing up or anything.
Right.
Like it was just like we put our stuff out and then you basically sit in your house and you kind of like watch out the window to see if anybody comes and takes it, you know. But it was so fun to go along with these people who just like are looking for their treasures, you know, and this is good, or finding some really cool stuff,
right?
You know, and yeah.
One thing, the thing that I really was taken aback by garbage week this week, and so you'll like drive by a house, I'll have 5 toilets out front.
Right? Where do they get these things from?
How many bathrooms do you have, and why are you breaking toilets so much?
Yeah, why are you amassing this much porcelain? I think it was
price is going to go up someday.
Right.
Last year there was a photo going around of someone who had 50 upright vacuum cleaners in their front lawn.
My Lord.
And so you just kind of wonder like what is going on here. Anyway, the thing that caught my eye this year is a couple of doors down from me, there was a framed theatrical release poster for the animated flop Quest for Camelot.
Wow.
And we're talking about like the 27 by 40 full size framed. The frame's not broken. It's in perfect condition. It looks like this person got this and then put it in there in 1996 or whatever.
Right.
And I can only imagine the discussion in the house is like, damn it, Charles, you can only have 4 posters and now you've got 5. So what's it going to be? What are you going to get rid of? And he's looking at him. Yeah. He's like, okay, am I going to get rid of Quest for Camelot?
Yeah.
Road to El Dorado, Treasure Planet, or one of the other animated flops that he loves so much. And he's like, it's going to be Quest for Camelot.
Right. The question is, did you pick it up?
I did. I thought about it, but my wife
you thought
would
about it.
lose it.
Yeah.
So I'm a pack rat. I love stuff. Oh man, I love like treasure. I do think of them like treasures. And
as Marie Kondo would say, they are items that spark joy.
Right. This sparks joy. Yeah.
But I moved into my house 3 years ago, and I still haven't unpacked all the boxes.
Oh, we're over a year at mine, and there's still 2 bedrooms that just basically have boxes in them.
Yeah, I've got that in my basement right now. And that's the thing is like, I don't need more stuff because the stuff that I previously had, I'm not really giving the attention to.
Are you going to Marie Kondo it then?
That's how I just did that with my garage.
Okay.
During cleanup week.
I spent most of my evening last night Marie Kondoing my bedroom and this morning a little bit too.
Really?
Yeah. And I've got a little bit more work to do, but
like clothes and everything.
The whole, so I'm living at my mom's house right now while she's working on the coast, and I'll be moving into probably an apartment this fall sometime. And so I'm beginning the process of going, okay, I'll be moving soon. I've still got a ton of crap that I don't want. So Boulevard Day, I threw away a ton of stuff, which felt really good. Still have a ton of stuff. It is in zero organization whatsoever, and my life is chaos. And so I thought it's finally time to just put one foot in front of the other and start this journey to living a less chaotic life. And I'm going to be a cliche. I'm going to go watch some Marie Kondo videos.
Yep.
And that's what I did. And I got stoked and I started working on it. And so now, I actually ended up throwing out a bunch of clothing because I just always think of clothing as, yep, I got it. I throw it in this drawer. It's there, and I grab it, I put it on, and it keeps me covered. So I've got stuff that is way beyond its expiration date. Right. So I got rid of a bunch of that stuff. Did all my laundry and then like did a full new refolding procedure, a la Marie Kondo style. And I'm working on making sure that I'm not working on any other room in the house until the bedroom is perfect, until it's right where I need it to be. Because that's another problem of mine. I start cleaning or working on a project and I get it so far and then I get tired and I think I'll pick this up tomorrow and then I don't.
Right.
So I want to really push through and go, I'm not starting another house cleaning project until this room is done. From that room, I'll go to the upstairs bathroom, and then I'll go to the upstairs office, and then I'll do the staircase going downstairs, and then just take it from there.
Right.
And so I'll be feeling amazing in the upper part of the house for a little bit, and then I'll pretty soon be feeling amazing in the whole house.
Good for you, buddy.
So fingers
Good for
crossed.
you.
Keep going.
I think that do you watch the Marie Kondo?
I don't, but I read the book a few years
good for
ago.
you.
I should do that.
Yeah, my friend, she actually, it's the first time I got into audiobooks because she read it and then she was just like going through her house and just purging like crazy. And she's like, Carrie, you have to read this book. And I was like, I just started a new job and I was like, I don't have time to do this. I've got too much of my life. And so she's like, well, do you have Audible? And I'm like, no. And she's like, I can send you a book for free if you've never used the app before. So I downloaded the app and she sent it to me and I listened to it. And now I listen to audiobooks constantly. I'm like,
By the way, Audible is one of the greatest inventions that man has
Seriously?
made in the last few years.
yes.
Because I think when people think of audiobooks, they think of like, going to Cracker Barrel and getting the 12 CDs of a
Yes.
Dean Koontz novel.
Yes.
That's what Dad does.
Yep,
Yep.
he sure does.
What P is for murder? Something like that.
What?
I don't know. He's into those books.
Yeah.
I meant it would have been M is for murder, but
it's not. It's not really. That's like a Agatha Christie type thing. Your dad's into things, like Body in the River, or like Tragic Circumstance.
like some old
Alpha Omega.
some sort of grizzled detective that he can project himself onto. Solving this case. I don't want none of your guff.
By the way, I gotta show you a picture of your dad's eyes I took this week. I know that's a weird
Kinda
like
creepy.
thing.
Yeah.
Dad just went through cataract surgery
Oh,
this week,
okay.
so he's on like bed rest and recuperating
Yeah.
at home. And he has sent me a few photos where he looks like he got just punched in the face.
Yeah.
One of his pupils is really small because that was the eye he had done earlier in the week.
Okay.
And then I saw him the day he had his other eye done. So that one's normal size. But then the other one is so big, it almost covers like the entire eye. And so looking at him with those both, I was like, man, this is crazy. Where's I going to go with this? Oh, you know what? Like Marie Kondo has caused like this huge uptick in people
yeah.
going to the Container Store
Yep.
and getting all of these, new pieces. I have to imagine this cleanup week seemed like one of the biggest cleanup weeks I have ever seen in
I'm sure
Fargo.
getting rid of purging everything.
Must
you
be.
know?
Get rid of
Yeah.
that which does not spark joy.
Right.
Which is surprisingly amazing as a philosophy, because it's not wooey like think it's spirit or something like that. It's literally the feeling that you get, the things that we collect that we like. I like comic books, I like silver coins, I like these other things. When I get them, I feel good about having them, and there's something about them that seems to improve at least my experience. But I've got so many things that I don't have it because it makes me happy or anything else. I might need that someday. Well, is it the only one on earth? No. If you need something like that, you can probably find it again. You don't need to hold on to it, which is a mentality that both my parents had was, well, we might need that someday.
Right.
So let's hold on to it.
I feel like a lot of the older generation, because they grew up with parents who lived through the Depression,
Right.
and then they're not as bad as what, people from like the 1920s, 30s were, but they still might have a little bit of that. And then we're so far removed from it. We're like, ew, get rid of it. I'll buy a new one if I need it, you know?
I think that also our space, like being in the upper Midwest, leads into that because we've got large garages and we've
And
got
basements.
sheds and basements,
Yep.
Versus like somebody who's living in Chicago, you can't keep that much stuff with you. You've got to, you're really not holding anything. Does Marie Kondo ever talk about like if you are the person in the family who is the keeper of the family stuff? So like the bins of photos, the
sure.
people you don't know, but you know that they're related to you, or like that's who I am in my family. I've got all of the
You're the historian.
yeah, and that's the worst part is because that takes up more space than anything
Right.
else. Although I did find a sword recently while I was cleaning. Yeah,
So your great grandfather's sword that he killed.
Right.
well from Scotland.
Oh, it's
So-
a claymore.
Yeah, so I did not know that this thing
That's
was there.
right. Because you carried it at the St. Andrews
I
Society.
carried somebody else's claymore.
Oh.
But yeah, I got to carry the claymore at the beginning of the little parade, and I took it very seriously. I was the little guy, and I was just so adorable. But I also found an insurance policy that they purchased for all of the Scottish tartans and kilts that they brought over in an old steamer trunk, and it was dated 1877.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the paper's it's very yellowed. It's like onion paper.
Right.
And so it's very brittle.
Do you know who like they got it through? Like, I wonder if they would still honor the
German American Insurance Company.
Wow.
So I was going to look to see if the German American Insurance Company still exists.
Right.
or if it got bought up, and so
Yeah,
maybe
I know.
it's
Next
debts
thing
would
you know,
be.
it's American Family Insurance or something like that.
Carrie, we haven't really touched on this yet, but you worked as a photographer for the Forum for a good number for a while.
Yeah, it was just shy of 10 years.
So I just remember always seeing your name constantly in the Forum under photos.
Yep. Carrie Snyder, the Forum.
So how did
I thought that was Carolyn Schneider.
Oh, right.
Who took all those photos. That wasn't.
Damn you, Carolyn.
No, she took photos for the HPR. That's
For
why
the midweek.
That's why you're getting confused.
Which is owned by the Forum.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
midweek,
is it?
Yeah.
There you go. Their tendrils have they're like the Rupert Murdoch of the area. Were you already big into photography before getting that gig, or did that kind of come in a different way?
You know, it's kind of funny because in high school, I was like the person who documented everything with cameras back when you had like the disposable cameras, next advance the film. Like I have pictures of us like from the Warp Tour. I took all the pictures when we went out there, we're in high school and all the different things we did.
Does that mean that you're not in those photos then?
I'm not in a lot of photos, and that's okay because photographers don't like being in photos. Right. So
selfies weren't really a thing yet.
No, well, what we did, I was like the queen of turning the camera around because you just look for in the tiny little lens that was on those cameras, you just look for your figure in there. So we get them back and I'd be like, yeah, I know, it's a good picture.
Mine always had my finger in front of it.
Right. So I didn't really think much of it other than like I have pictures of us looking at pictures. Like that's how much I documented stuff. And I have boxes. Marie Kondo would not be happy with me, but boxes of photos back from when you actually used to develop and print out photos. And then I went to school and I started at NDSU for college in business admin and accounting because I liked math. So I was like, what do I do? I'm 18.
Remember like 20 minutes ago when you couldn't figure out what year you were in?
Which is funny. I think it's just because I was put on the spot.
Oh.
And my mind just went, I should know this.
Use calculator and phone.
I know. But I am actually really good at math when I'm not like, in front of a microphone with two people. But
calculate this now.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, oh, no.
Do you remember the Pythagorean theorem?
Oh my gosh.
I don't. So whatever you say, I'm going to take for face value. Oh. I don't.
Isn't it like treat others the way you want to be treated?
I thought the Pythagorean...
That's his theorem, right?
Isn't it like some... Like... P equals something
somewhere out there. There's a mathematician throwing his
C squared. Is that the Pythagorean theorem?
That's a theorem. I know that for sure. Or is
it like the radius equals pi over...
No, that's just to figure out the circumference of
My
the
goal
circle.
is for this episode to enrage a mathematician so much that he breaks his abacus over his knee. His grandfather's abacus.
Right.
They say that an abacus is really still an efficient way of figuring out figures. And
then say that?
Yeah, and then
Who's
I'm like...
they?
Yeah, they.
Big Abacus? Like the company that still owns the rights to the abacus and is trying to get it to come back? It's like,
I wonder if
vinyl records.
Hey, but vinyl records are really having a moment.
The abacus will too.
Mm-hmm, I think so. I wouldn't know how to use an abacus. I can't even use one of those scales where you use the the weight thing to figure it out. I'm like, how the hell does this work?
It's all about the balance.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they've got to, as soon as it equally balances, then that's what you are.
That's why it can't be perfect though, right? Like you would think that it's a simple machine and it wears out over time. So am I coming out on the upper or lower part of this?
This is why the greatest generation is 2 generations prior to us.
Right.
Yeah. If you had a flat tire, could you fix it?
Yeah, actually I did in Compton, California. Yeah, that's right. I got street cred. So,
Tell me how you ended up with a flat tire in Compton.
I was out there visiting friends of mine. I don't know if you know much about the Red Hawks, but Zach Penpraise,
Yeah.
who played for them, is a friend of mine, and then his family.
Name drop.
So, right?
Carrie is about as connected as you are in this town.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yes, it kind of is, but sometimes don't you just want to go someplace and be like,
let me have lunch in
yes.
peace.
Yes.
You local celebs.
I know, which
So
is
tough.
weird because it's like, how does that even happen? You know? But I mean, I'm a networker. I love just being like, hey, who are you and what do you know? You know? But so I was out in California in Moore Park, which is where they live, and which brings me to the movie Valentine's Day, where they say, you know what Moore Park is backwards? Crap room. So, yep, right? So I'm out there, and I love experiencing new things and things I've never done. And Rick Penpraise, Zach's dad, I told him, I said, I want to go to Compton. I want to see what it's like out there, you know, everything. I because if you don't actually experience it, like, you don't know. You can't really talk about it, you know? And he's like, oh. So the one day that it rains in California, I was out there. And he's like, all right, I'll bring you there. But he had all these rules. Like, and he's like, Carrie, you love joking around and everything. But he's like, I'm serious. You cannot do this stuff when we're here. And he's like, if we're stopped at a light, you know, do not look at people, you know, like he's like, do not take pictures. Like, just very much, we just need to go through it and that's it. I was like, all right. So we're driving down a neighborhood street in Compton, and all of a sudden, like, you hear like do 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 do, and we're like, oh, and Rick's like, this is bad. And I was like, what? And he goes, well, in neighborhoods, they will put nails on the street so that you get a flat tire. So when you get out, they'll come and rob you or take your car or do things like this. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So he's like, okay, we need to find like a public area, not a neighborhood. So we found this school, and we got in the parking lot, and he's like, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do this fast. And I'd never changed a tire in my life. So we get out of the car, and he's like, loosen the lug nuts a little bit. And he's like, take these off. He's in the back of the trunk getting like the new donut or whatever it is out. And it's raining, and just like our hands are covered in mud and everything just from like being in different neighborhoods. And I think we could be on like a pit crew for like a
NASCAR.
right. Because it was ridiculous how fast that like happened, and you know, jacking up the car, and then he's like, okay, like put the tire on. So I learned from him how to do it in a very like kind of intense situation. But it was kind of cool because when we were there, I mean, cool or not cool, I don't know. There was like security for the campus, the college campus we were on. And so they were kind of sitting there. So we felt like a little bit better. And I don't know, like, I mean, you may talk to someone from Compton and they'll be like, you're overreacting or whatever. But all I know is that they've lived there, you know, and they know and they hear the news. And just hearing the history about, like, we went over this bridge, and he's like, this is a bridge where the, you know, Bloods and Crips on each side literally would just shoot over this bridge. So cars driving by and everything, like, you could, bullets fly and everything like that. So, yeah. So if I had to do it right now, I could figure it out again.
Right.
But I don't want to. I'd rather just call AAA or, you know,
Do
that's
you
what I
use
pay
AAA?
for. That's what I mean, it's with my insurance.
AAA has saved my butt so many
Right.
times, just in the past year alone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just forgot to put gas in my car, and my girlfriend and I were going to go out to dinner in the winter time, and then it died. It was like our second date, basically. Ugh.
Tucker
AAA
and
saved.
cars don't go hand in hand.
It's one of those things that I never put any thought into
Right.
ever.
What about the mystery machine?
That's long gone and dead. But even that, I dove into it without really thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I was spending $40 a week on gas because the gas was so bad.
And
Yeah.
that's when gas was like $1.05.
Right.
Oh,
right.
I used to. People don't believe that. Like where I sit in the generation gap here, I'm one of the, what do they call them, Xennials or
Yeah, I hate that we don't have.
You're millennials.
No, we're not.
Yeah, you are.
considered a millennial.
At 35,
Yeah.
Oh no! At 35, you are Xennial.
If
with
you
me.
Yeah.
A xennial?
The millennials.
The Oregon Trail generation.
Millennial starts in 82. If you're born in 82
but
or
we
after.
are the misunderstood. I actually have the article always pulled up on my phone because I'm like, read this right here.
Because
here,
we don't
Oregon Trail.
Yeah, because
I played the Oregon Trail.
You know, like we're at the very beginning of it, and so we don't actually adhere to all of the like millennial norms.
Yeah, like I didn't grow up with a computer.
Right, neither did I. We only got one by the time I was like a senior.
Right. I didn't have a cell phone when I was in college. Like, I mean, not even beginning of college.
We had a bag phone that was in the car
my gosh, you had
for
one of those?
emergencies
Yes.
only all the way through my senior year of high school.
Yes. So it's like the late Gen Xers and the early millennials where we grew up without.
Yeah, we don't fit in either category perfectly.
Because if you say millennial, I mean, millennials, they had technology all the time. Computers around, like in classrooms or in schools. Like I remember going to school and no computers.
Well,
at
what would
all.
I be classified as then? Because you're talking about my experience.
Yeah.
But I was born in 85.
Which is funny because I think it also maybe depends on the region. Because I wonder sometimes if in the Midwest, where sometimes we're a little behind on some things, maybe there might be more xennials here than they would on like
by just
the
your
coast.
geography.
Yeah.
How do you spell
That's an
xennial?
interesting question.
It's XENNIAL. Or you can look up, like I said, Oregon Trail generation.
Because like I remember the Oregon Trail generation.
Yeah.
Those in Generation X range in age from 35 to 49.
Yeah.
However, this group that falls in the middle, those that range in age from 34 to 40, and I'm 34. So I guess I'm the tail end of this thing you're talking about, where you're a millennial, but you're also the older section of the millennials.
Yeah.
It's a micro generation is what it's being referred to. So you are a millennial. Within the millennial grouping, there's this like subgrouping basically.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
where we can't fully relate to millennials, but we can.
But we can somewhat relate to Gen Xers, but not fully as well.
Yes.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it's like this weird gap where I mean, I feel like it's my whole life. Like, oh,
New wrinkle
nobody
in the brain there for
understands
me.
We're the Pepsi generation.
Right.
Carrie.
Yes.
As we wrap up this conversation, which went in places I didn't think we were going to end
same
up.
here.
This is
That's
just
typically our
wonderful.
episodes,
Yeah,
JJ.
right.
Where, if people want to find you, like, do you have like a Twitter handle, an Instagram they can follow?
So I have my own like photo business that's called Snyder Shots, which I think is kind of cool. So you can find me on Twitter at Snyder Shots. I have a Facebook page, personal, that I do not accept friend requests from random strangers because I'm pretty raw on Facebook and I'm not afraid to throw everything out there and talk about things.
Will you accept my friend request?
I think I will because we've had this conversation. We went to Vegas together. I can tag you in the photos.
Oh, yeah. She's got a ton of photos
I've got
of you.
Photos from
Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
You, me, and Scott Haugen walking into a
Right,
building.
right.
Yeah,
I'm
he owes me a bunch of money. So, like, maybe now I got a good photo.
Also, if you are a fan of this episode, we will be inviting Carrie back sometime this summer because we will be doing a Bratstand Barons specific episode, which I
Yes.
totally forgot to bring up. And just a quick story, Carrie's the reason why I started that Facebook page because I'm always posting about food and I was going for a few years on a kick every summer when the Bratstands would come up. And so she just messaged me one day and said, you should just start a Facebook page for all these because you do it so much.
Yep.
I went, okay. And then I went
We
and
got
created
a following now.
Yep.
T-shirts, maybe.
Exactly. T-shirts coming this summer. And Adam and I were talking about that. We want to tie the T-shirts into a fundraiser for a charity.
I would love that.
So we're figuring that out.
Yes.
We'll figure that out. But sometime
It
this
should
summer.
be brats for brats. And it should be like a local like food for like the hungry kids.
Right. Oh my
Brats for
gosh.
brats.
Hey, I think we need to have a board. Like seriously,
Yeah.
we can decide like who these.
Right. So
Yeah.
when I started the community page, I just thought, you know what? I don't want to really control this thing. I just want to see where the community takes it. So both you and Adam, I believe, still have. You might have edit capabilities. I'm not positive.
I have admin rights.
Yeah,
or
you
something like
both have
that, yeah.
admin rights.
Like Bratstand Barons.
Like Bratstand
Yes.
Barons, and more to come on that later this
Yes.
summer.
So also like Snyder Shots Photography on Facebook. That's where I shoot for NDSU athletics and I post a lot of sports photos on there. And then any
So I'm not in any of those.
No. I mean, did you play for the football team So I post a lot of those.
I have thrown a fair number of first pitches though at the Red Hawks.
I have seen you throw a first pitch back when you were running, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And my first pitches of the season is always the best, and then they go downhill from there.
I'm JJ Gordon. My pitch to you is to elect me your mayor in 06.
They won't give me the microphone anymore when we go down there. Those bastards. Do you ever go to, like, there's some super fans of the Red Hawks who throw like a big party for them every year.
Yeah,
Did you go to that?
Oh yeah, because I was the Section K crew. I sat right on the corner of Section K for years, season ticket holder, and they're good friends of mine. Yeah.
I've taken them to lunch a couple times through my day job at the radio station.
Which one? Carla?
Yes.
Yes. She is a character.
She is, and she's super obsessed with Elvis, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Carla and Mary Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
See, look, we're connected.
I know. See, we know people. And why do we know these people? You go out and experience the world, right?
So is it a big deal that Tucker's dad is Ole to you? Like, do you ever think like
your
dad's Ole?
But he's not Ole to me. He's my 9th grade English teacher to me because he taught me English.
Did he make you watch Dead Poet Society in class?
He did. He did.
He did. But it is funny to tell people like, oh yeah, Ole, like, he's my friend Tucker's dad, and he was my English teacher. And then when they had Sven, Mr. Coomer, who was my geography teacher at Ben Franklin.
Mr. K. We got to get him on the show.
Yeah,
he'll have some
Mark
good
K,
stories.
he's an Uber driver now.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Is he really?
He is.
I will listen to that one. I loved Mr. Coomer's geography class was like my favorite class.
We'll
at Ben
get
Franklin.
him. He always taught us how to do the Fig Newton song.
Yes, the big
Every
Fig Newton.
Every class had to learn the Fig Newton song.
Oh, I love it.
Anyways.
We got to get him on.
Yes.
Carrie, thank you so much for
Thank
stopping
you
by
for
JJ
having
Meets
me.
World.
Yeah, appreciate that.
A huge thanks to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty for sponsoring this podcast. Folks, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, contact Natalie Deutsch today, because Natalie Deutsch is not only a previous podcast guest, she's somebody who's going to care enough to sell your property for top dollar. She's also going to find you the best price possible if you're purchasing a new home. Last year on average, Natalie earned her clients $4,000 over list price on their homes and sold them faster than the market average. On average, Natalie's selling a home every 3.74 days. That's 2 homes a week. Those numbers don't lie. Find out why Natalie is one of the top agents in this entire market. Get a hold of her today, Natalie at hatchrealtyfm.com. You can also call 701-388-9338 or go on to livefargomorehead.com. That's livefargomorehead.com. Read all of her amazing reviews and then listen to her episode of JJ Meets World. Thanks again to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode of JJ Meets World and would like to help us continue to produce 2 new episodes every week, you can donate to our Patreon. Check out patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld and donate today. Even as little as $1 a month can go a long way. Visit our website at www.jjmeetsworld.com or hit up our social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the sites the kids are using these days. If you'd like to stay up to date on new episodes of JJ Meets World, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you consume the podcast that you love. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by checking out www.moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, go to linebenders.com and you can find direct contact info for JJ. All of the pictures that Carrie has of me are from behind, so she must really like my non-existent butt.